automation, and the dire, pressing need to find new sorts of jobs for most people that can't simply just be replaced by a beep boop. This is a topic I've been wanting to talk about for quite some time now, but the Think Piece videos have been somewhat preoccupied with gatekeeping, an even more pressing problem. Automation is an issue for the future. Gatekeeping, that was a problem we needed to start addressing 10 years ago. But, anywho, the inspiration came when I saw an article talking about a restaurant owner in the US. He simply couldn't find anyone willing to do the job he needed doing for the price he was willing to pay, and so he simply got a robot to do it instead. And this is an excellent example of the positive sides of automation, the inevitable sides of automation, and also the negative aspects of it as well. In fact, I'd even been thinking about using the restaurant example before I saw the article. I even briefly mentioned it in a recent video of mine. Because from the shop owner's perspective, this makes nothing but sense. This is a pure positive. He's not replacing anyone with robots because nobody wanted to do the job. And now that the robot is there, the employees he already has need to do less because the robot is of course doing its chores, and they can also be paid more because the robot is a one-time purchase that only eats $15 worth of electricity every day. That is a tremendous saving for the shop owner, and taking into consideration recent agitation over in the US for a $15 per hour minimum wage, that robot is going to keep outcompeting any person for that job for, well, ever now. And the eagle-eyed amongst you have already spotted the problem, haven't you? If this robot is now indeed doing the job that previously required a human, but for a fraction of the cost, that job is now lost. There will never again be a reason to employ a human to do that job, barring, I suppose, literal free slave labor. And as the example also demonstrates, you should not for an instant make the mistake of thinking that robots will be somehow limited to factories or manufacturing jobs. Oh no, they are absolutely going to replace most humans in direct service industries as well. And whilst there are certainly limitations right now, of course, once they are in the workplace, those limitations will start disappearing awfully quickly. As the example shows with the restaurant robot, it can only really go over to your table and take your order by having you interact with this little data screen. Then it sends the orders to the kitchen where a human chef needs to prepare the meal, and then the robot comes and collects it, then waffles on over to the table where the people have to take their meal and place it on the table. The robot also can't clear the table or wash the floors or interact with the customers verbally or any of the other things that a restaurant employee could do. The primary benefit of a human therefore remains flexibility. But again, once the robots are in the workplace and are outcompeting the humans for wages, there is only a question of time until the robot manufacturers think of a way to, oh hey, hold on, this is a way for it to clear the tables. Oh hey, hold on, this is a way for it to amuse the customers by beeping and booping at them, etc, etc, etc. Robot technology is only going to be marching forward. And so when a robot has appeared in your workplace and has outcompeted humans for a certain area of that job, you can bet your happy little behind it is only a question of time until they start competing for another area of that workplace's jobs as well. Now, this isn't to say that this is going to be happening tomorrow, or next year, or in the next 10 years even, because there are a lot of complications. And just as a little side note here, I feel quite confident in my ability to talk about this subject because I do have a fair bit of experience with automation. In case you're unaware, the family company, I'm not working there now because, well, I'm doing this nonsense, we do a fair bit of automation work, and the company has developed honestly again, tooting our own horn here, a revolutionary new tool for robots, a robotic tool changer. This is a really, really big deal because previously robots were sold as just a robot, a robotic arm. It didn't come with a tool, it didn't come with an attachment or an adapter or anything. You had to produce everything surrounding the robot. If it needed to pick something up, you needed to get a hold of the suction cups. You needed to mount it on the robot. You needed to get some way to get air to the suction cups, etc, etc, etc. And you needed to do this for each and everything you wanted the robot to do, which meant that most robotic arms, bearing in mind they also tend to be really expensive, were monotasked. They could only ever do one thing. If you add in a tool changing system, however, the only limit to the amount of tasks the robot can do is dependent upon the amount of magazines with tools you can place around the robot, allowing that one really expensive robot to do a ton of different things by using a relatively cheap tool changing system. And the amount of things we've been told that, oh, a robot can't do this, that the robot now does, is ever increasing. Our funniest achievement to date is probably being told that welding would forever be a human job because no robot could ever do that properly. And, well, no, we made the robot weld. We absolutely made the robot weld. And not only that, we made the robot do the entire thing around the welding, picking the pieces, replacing them, placing them together, welding them, then moving them over to another area. And hell, if we wanted to go further, we could easily set up a packaging station as well, so that the robot can literally take a raw material product and create the finished version of that product all by itself, from the actual literal pieces to a packaged product at the end of it. But anywho, I am wandering off the topic somewhat, am I not? The point is, robotics are only going to get better. But right now, there are limitations. Not necessarily limitations on the technology, but limitations on the amount of work that needs to be put into making it work. Because robots are bloody stupid. Oh, it took us a long-ass time of testing, of retesting, of calibrating, of tiny little tweaks and changes to get that welding system to operate properly. Even something as relatively simple as packaging products in a certain way can be really goddamn annoying and difficult depending upon the type of product you need to package. For example, if you need to first pack something into a box that requires one tool, or let's make it even more complicated. The boxes come as flat boxes. So first you need to raise the boxes up. That's going to require one set of tools. Then once you've got the box ready, you then need to grip the product, which is going to require another tool. And then once you've done that and you've finished packing the product, you then need to seal the box, which is going to require a third tool, and so on. This is a lot of programming, it's a lot of headache, and it's a lot of god damn it, robot, why do you do it that way? As it knocks things over, gets tangled in its own lines, or simply begins smashing random shit. Because robots are bloody stupid. In a restaurant, I imagine the exact same kind of headaches. To begin with, the robot is like, oh yes, it'll totally be able to recognize tables and chairs and employees and stuff and that. As you watch the robot go ramming into chairs and tables and stuff like that, until you've worked out the kinks, you've told it where to go. In the case of the robot in question in the restaurant, I believe it used tracked lines on the floor. So there will be lines in a special color on the floor that the robot can recognize and then follow them along. Now, this is a relatively simplistic solution, so I imagine it would also have some sensors to go like, oh, person in the way, I probably shouldn't ram them mercilessly. But to begin with, I bet you they didn't think of that. To begin with, they were like, okay, we'll paint things on the floor and it'll follow them. Then it started ramming customers like, ah, shit, right, okay. Install a sensor so it stops doing that. And then another problem appeared. Like, for example, it couldn't balance the trays properly. And then they fixed that, and so on and so on and so on. This is an iterative process, obviously, as nothing is ever 100% perfect to begin with. And I bet you as well, the restaurant owner will have some bugs and issues dealing with this system going forward. Not to mention, of course, the getting used to period for the customers themselves, that will see a weird-ass beep boop come wandering up to them, go, press me, please. They'll be confused too, and hell, to begin with, that'll probably draw in more customers as the rumor will go around, did you know? At this restaurant, you can be served by a robot. But once people get used to that, once the kinks are ironed out, it will work, probably just as well as a human doing the same job. And again, there is the kink. Because you might now be wondering, well, hold on there for a moment, Art, if robots are so goddamn amazing, if they can do so many things, why haven't we automated everything already? Why aren't there robots replacing restaurant workers all over the nation, the globe, etc.? It is because of the problems with getting it to work the first time. There's going to be a lot of complications. It's going to require programming. It's going to require the ability to problem solve and fix things on the fly. And in the case of certain robots, like the big industrial robots, that can be a huge problem. Now, a collaborative robot like the Universal Robotic Arm, for example, it has a very simple and user-friendly system of programming. Whereas something like a massive KUKA or FANUC robot designed to lift tons, it is going to require you to shell out a lot of money to get somebody to get that thing working, and then trust that that person actually gets it to work. Oh god. You will not believe the amount of times you've been called upon to fix somebody else's programming mistakes. But, again, once you've managed to get around all of these little initial problems, all of these little teething issues, once you've solved that, you are sitting there with a worker that will do the task you are telling it to do again and again and again and again for a very long time with a very high degree of reliability that is going to cost you a fraction of the human employee. And that is taking into account the high initial purchasing sum. Let's say that you're going to get a collaborative robot. That's going to run you maybe $30,000 to $40,000. An industrial robot will range well into the hundreds of thousands, and that is, again, before any tools, before any programming, any training, or any enclosures you might need. So the total sum is, of course, going to be far higher, but compare that to a wage. A human will probably cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars over the course of a year, whereas the robot, let's say that it costs a person's wage, a whole 1 year wage for a human being. Alright, the next year, the robot will cost you next to nothing, as all you need do is provide it with electricity. The next year after that again, the robot will still be there, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year, and the next year. When it comes to doing simple, repetitive tasks, a robot will be a far better investment than any employee. And again, if you can get a, shameless self-plug again, a tool that allows you to change it and do multiple tasks, you don't have to buy the second robotic hand either. The more you can multi-purpose the tools you already have, unsurprisingly, the fewer tools you will have to purchase in the future. And this, of course, will translate into a great deal of savings for the company. The robot is a one-time, predictable purchase. It won't require additional money. It won't require compensation. It won't require vacation money. It will never sue you for mistreatment. and it won't require days off. Hell, it could even, if you've got a business capable of doing so, the robot can operate through the night if you let it. It doesn't have any regulations on how many hours a day it could work, and it will earn itself back remarkably quickly whilst costing you next to nothing on a day-to-day basis. And hell, the restaurant example is one of the more complicated ones. Imagine something instead like a McDonald's, for example. I can tell you with absolute confidence, it would take a couple of weeks. Hell, let's be pessimistic about it, shall we? Let's say a couple of months to fully automate a McDonald's. Fully automated. Robots doing the burger flipping, doing the preparations, doing the packaging, doing the interactions with the customers, and handing them their foods. All of that could be automated really, really simply. Now again, undoubtedly there would be teething problems, there would be complications, but there is nothing in a McDonald's that a robot can't do. The only job that would remain at such a business would be one person to oversee the machines, because sometimes robots will do weird shit. Like anything controlled by a computer, bugs will happen. But that's the beauty of it as well. If you've got robots doing the job, you know what happens if one robot starts whizzing out, or if one robot breaks down after years and years and years and years and years of doing the same job? You know what you do? You get a base changer, which is incidentally another product we've developed, and you just take the robot off and replace it with another robot. There you go, you're back in business. You've lost 5 minutes of production time tops. And I want to reiterate as well that the only reason why this hasn't already happened is because it is difficult, it is expensive, and it will require considerable testing. Bearing in mind, McDonald's has already started trying out automated drive-thrus, and the only reason they don't have it fully functioning yet is because they hired the wrong company, as they are clearly incompetent. Probably, anyways. It seems the most likely answer in my humble expert opinion. But it will happen, and when it begins to happen more broadly, it will accelerate incredibly quickly. Because let me leave you with this little thing to ponder here. If you are in a conversation with a person who is championing a $15 per hour minimum wage, for example, that's a big topic over in the US right now, and the argument is it totally won't impact wages or anything, because everyone will have to pay the same amount. Therefore, no jobs will disappear, right? Well, let's assume a $15 per hour minimum wage, right? Let's further assume a 7-hour work day. And let's not even begin to get into things like overtime or vacation pay or all of the various other expenses that you need to fork over for having employees. Sick days, non-productive days, yada yada yada. Let's just say that the employee is a perfect employee. He shows up for all 7 hours every day, no problems, no stop, no issues, right? So that gives us a daily cost of about $105. Let's further say that the employee works 5 days a week. That gives us $525. And then you've got, 48 work weeks in the US for a total of $25,200 on a yearly basis. That'll be the $15 minimum wage for 48 work weeks, working 7 hours a day for 5 days a week. That cost right there already puts you within range of a collaborative robot. And hey, let's double it. Let's say 50,000, right? To get the robot, to get the programming, to get the tools, to get all of the additional things you need. Theoretically then, that means that a human is within 2 years of losing their job for good. Now, of course, once more we are oversimplifying things quite a bit, on both sides as well, because it isn't just that simple to replace an employee, as I think I have made quite clear over the course of this video. Yet nevertheless, imagine if just 10, 20% of jobs like restaurant waiters disappeared over the course of the next 2 years. How do you think that would affect the economy? Are we ready for that kind of a replacement rate? I certainly don't think so. And that is again, of course, why it is so important that we begin looking for new types of jobs, new types of industries, and new ways to employ people in the future, which I imagine will be another topic soon to come. Soon. Trademark. Until next time, I've been Arch, thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you all again soon. Until then, have a good day.